We continue now at the top of Daf Lamed Vav Amud Aleph and Meseches Bava Basra. This is Bava Basra Daf 36a. On the previous Amud, the Gemara said that a Yisrael haba machmas akum, meaning to say, let's say you have a Jew that purchases a piece of land from a non-Jew. The non-Jew was there long enough to establish a chazakah. The non-Jew says he bought it from a Jew, and the Jew was there also long enough. The second Jew was there also long enough to establish a chazakah. Nevertheless, that second Jew is not able to keep the property based on chazakah. Rather, it goes back to the original Jew who owned the property, and the reason is because a non-Jew does not have the concept of chazakah. A non-Jew has to actually produce a shtar, a document to prove that he is the owner of the land, and so therefore, since the non-Jew doesn't have the concept of chazakah, so too the Jew who comes machmas akum, meaning the second Jew, the one who is buying it from the non-Jew, he also is not able to use a chazakah. And Rava now says that if the Jew were to say as follows, L'didi omar li akum, that the non-Jew said to me, meaning this is the second Jew, the person who's on the property right now, he says the non-Jew said to me, noch zavna, that he bought it from you. That's the original Jew who's claiming that the property really is still his. Mehem, so then that second Jew, the one who's on the property, would be believed. And the Rashbam explains, L'didi amar li akum deminoch zavna mehemin. Why should that make him be believed? Demida asik adaite, from the fact that it occurred to him, lemitan hachi, to make such a claim. Hachanami have a motzi lemitan anozavin deminoch. So in the same fashion, he could have claimed that I bought it directly from you. V'achalti shnei chazaka, I've been here long enough to establish a chazaka. Demehemin, he'd certainly be believed in that case. Hilkach malo l'shakar. Therefore, we should say, why should he lie? V'kushta ka'amar, and he must be saying the truth. And so therefore, again, that's why Rava says, if he says that the non-Jew said to me that he bought it from you, he's believed. But the Gemara questions that. Mi'ika midi de'ilu akum amar lo mehem. Does it make sense to say that there's something that if the non-Jew himself would have made that claim, he's not believed? The non-Jew can't say that I bought it from you and rely on chazak. As we said, there is no concept of chazak by non-Jew. Ve'ilu amar Yisrael mishmei, and so now the Jew says it in the name of the non-Jew. Mishmei da'akum mehem, and he says it in the name of the non-Jew, and now he's believed. That does not make sense. And so the Gemara continues, Elo amar Rava, rather Rava says, it's as follows. Amar Yisrael, if the Jew says, Kamei didi zavna akum minach, it was in front of me that the non-Jew bought it from you. I witnessed that sale. V'zavna nehili, and then he sold it to me. Mehem, and then he is believed. Migo, because there he does have a migo, he could have said the following, De'iboy amar le anozavintu minach, he could have just claimed that I bought it straight from you, and so therefore if he says, I saw the non-Jew buy it from you, and then I bought it from the non-Jew, he's going to be believed in that case as well. And the Gemara continues, V'yamar Rav Yehuda, and Rav Yehuda says, Haiman denokit magla v'sovalia, if a person has a sickle and a rope, V'yamar, and he says, Ezel igzera ledikla deplania, I'm going to cull the dates of so-and-so from this palm tree, meaning to say, I own the fruits that are produced by this particular palm tree. Dezavinta mine, that I bought it from him, meaning I bought the rights to these fruits from this individual. Mehemin, he is believed. Because lo chatzavinish, a person is not going to have such chutzpah, he's not going to be so brazen, lemigzar dikla delavdile, to cut down fruits from a palm tree that does not belong to him. And the Gemara continues, V'yamar Rav Yehuda, and Rav Yehuda says, Haiman da'achzik miguda da'arode ulavar, if somebody makes a chazaka on land from the fence where the wild donkeys come in and towards the outside, lo have a chazaka, that is not considered a chazaka. My time, what's the reason? Meimar Amar, it's because the original owner says to himself, Kol dezara nami arude achlile, everything this person is planting is going to be eaten by the wild donkeys anyway, so there is no point of protesting in this particular case. And the Rashbam explains, Haiman da'achzik miguda da'arode ulavar lo have a chazaka. If he makes a chazaka from the fence that keeps out the wild donkeys towards the outside, that's not a chazaka. Chayos hasada shabos va'ochlos hazroim shabiktsos hasada. The wild animals come and they eat the seeds that are at the edge of the field. V'yesha osen kiros v'godron hasada. There are some people, they make walls and fences around the field. U'meinichin karka chutz lakir, and they leave a little bit of land outside of the wall. Ma'at, just a little bit of land, besados hasmuchos liyar, when we're talking about fields that are near the forest, and they put a few seeds over there. Whatever grows, the wild animals come and eat it. And that way the wild animals don't actually enter the field. Now they don't enter the field. Now if somebody would come along and try to make a chazak on that piece of land, chutz legeder, that's outside of the fence, ain't a chazaka, that is not a chazak, he can't take it away from the original owner through chazak in that case. The yachal omer, because the original owner can say, since everything that is planted in that land is eaten by the wild donkeys, I didn't bother to protest. He's not making a normal chazaka. Therefore, it's not not considered a chazaka in that case. And the Gemara continues, V'yamar Rav Yehuda, and Rav Yehuda says, Achla arla, if the person consumes from the field while the field is arlets in the first 3 years, so the fruits are prohibited, ain't a chazaka, that's not considered to be a good chazaka. You can't make a chazaka by taking the fruits of arla, which are prohibited anyhow. Tanya Nami Hachi, the Gemara says, we have a brisa like this as well, Achla arla, shvias v'kilayim. If a person consumes from the field either arla, again, which is prohibited, or shvias is a time when it's all hefker for everyone, kilayim, when it's mixed kinds in the field, that's also prohibited. Ein a chazaka. All those kinds of usage of the field is not considered to be a chazaka. Amar Rav Yosef says, Achla shachas, if a person eats from the field while it is shachas, essentially unripe stalks that you generally feed to an animal, that's also not a normal way to use the field. Lo have a chazaka, that's not considered a chazaka. Amar Rava says, Vi b'tzavar mechuzah, if the person is in the neck of mechuzah, that was a certain area of mechuzah, we'll see in a moment. So kaim, if that's where he is, have a chazaka, then in fact it is a chazaka. And the Rashbam explains, Achla Arla Achas min Hashalosh Shanim, meaning one of the 3 years of his chazaka, Havishnas Arla, was an Arla year. Ain't a chazaka, it's not a chazaka. The owner of the field doesn't care if he's taking during the year of Arla. Well, that's why he didn't protest. Now, certainly that's true if all 3 years of the chazaka were years of Arla. Arla v'kilayim achilason be'isr, both Arla and kilayim, if he's taking the fruit, the produce, that's already, he's taking it and it's prohibited. And shvias hefker l'chol, and also the Shemitah year, so that's there, it's essentially ownerless, anyone can take the produce. Lakach lo micha, that's the reason why the original owner didn't protest. Therefore, v'lo have a chazaka, therefore it's not a chazaka. And then achla shachas, the Gemara said if he eats it when it's unripe, shelo himtanat shetigdal hatzvua, he doesn't wait until it actually grows, until the produce actually grows. Ela gimel shanim katzra kashi shachas, he always cuts it while it's still shachas, while it's still unripe stalks. Umachil behemto, and he feeds it to his animal. Ein a chazaka, it's not a chazaka. To shamid v'yachal, he's seizing it and using it. V'lo haya ochel kashar b'nei adam, he's not consuming it like normal people. Well, afikach lo chashash zeh limchos, that's why this person was not concerned enough to protest. Limchos bo, to protest against him, sheyesh raglaim l'dover, because it's already reasonable to believe sheyarihu lahachzik kashar b'nei adam. It looks like this guy's afraid to make a traditional chazaka lefisha begazel yardba, because he's really stealing it, and so therefore if he does it in that fashion, it's not a chazaka. V'yama Rav, and Rav says, V'koy hai shachas betzavar mechuzah. Now, if he's taking shachas by the neck of mechuzah, which means bebikas mechuzah, it's the valley of mechuzah, have a chazaka, that is a chazaka. Lefisha ashirim hem, because in that area they were wealthy. Uvehemos lem harbe, they had a lot of animals. V'darkam lahachil hasados lebehemos kashen shachas. It was normal in those situations to use what was from the field as shachas to feed it to the animals. So in that specific location, it would be considered a chazaka. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Nachman says, Tafticha, if you have inferior land, it's full of holes and the like. The point is, it doesn't really produce produce properly. Lo have a chazaka. There you can't make a chazaka on such land. The real owner won't bother to protest. Apik kura v'ayil kura, a similar case. Let's say it's a kind of inferior land where you plant a core of seeds and all you can produce is one core. It's not really proper production. Lo have a chazaka. There also is not a chazaka. Again, you can't expect the owner would protest because it's not producing anything anyhow. V'hani devei reish galus, and also the members of the household of the exilarch, lo mechazki bon v'lo mechazkinan bohu. They can't make a chazaka on our property because we're afraid to protest against them. They're members of the government, and also they can't make we can't make a chazaka on their property because they're so wealthy that they don't bother protesting, and so therefore our chazaka on their property is also not considered a chazaka. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said v'avodim, and the slaves also. There's an idea of chazaka after 3 years by avodim, by slaves. And the Gemara says, Avodim yeshlem chazaka, do slaves really have a chazaka? V'yamar Reish Lakish, but Reish Lakish said, Hagodros, when it comes to livestock, ein lohen chazaka, there is no chazaka. And the idea is, since they wander around, they might have just wandered into this person's property, and therefore there's no chazaka. And the Gemara answers, Amar Rava says, Ein lohen chazaka la'alter, when it comes to livestock, and the same thing also by avodim, there's no chazaka immediately. By other movable objects, once you have possession, it's considered an immediate chazaka. That's not true by livestock, which wander around. That's not true by avodim. Avol yeshlan chazaka la'achar gimel shana, but there is a chazaka after 3 years. That applies by avodim, and that applies by godros as well. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rava says, Im haya katan mutal barisa, if it's a baby, meaning the eved, the slave is a baby that's in the cradle, yesh lo chazaka l'alter, then the chazaka is immediate, since the baby is not able to move on its own, it's not wandering around, so it's like any other metaltalin, and the chazaka is immediate. But the Gemara says, Pshita isn't that obvious. Of course the chazaka is immediate if you're talking about a baby. The Gemara says, Lo no tzrich, it's necessary to isla ima, because this baby has a mother. So ma'u detema, what might you have said? Nechosh dil ma'ime, ayla se lahasam. We should be concerned maybe the mother brought the child over there, and therefore it should be the same as anything that wanders, and it should not be an immediate chazaka. Kamash malan, so that's what Rav is teaching us. Ima lo menashia bara, a mother does not forget her child, and so therefore she wouldn't have just left the son over there, and so there is an immediate chazaka in this situation. If you have possession, you must be the owner. And the Gemara continues, Hanu izi da'achlu chushla b'nahardoi. There were these goats that ate peeled barley in Nahardoi. Also, Mari Chushla Tafsinu. So the owner of the peeled barley, he came and he seized the goats. V'havekatoyin tuvan. He was demanding a lot of money because he said the value of all of the peeled barley which was eaten was worth a lot. He's owed a lot of money, and he was seizing the goats as payment. Amar Avua de Shmuel, the father of Shmuel, said, Yochol liton ad kedei damein. He's actually allowed to claim up until the value of the goats themselves. Why? Because if he wanted to, he could just say that I bought these goats. He would actually win that case because he has possession. So since he would win that case, he has a migo and he's believed to collect that amount of money. But the Gemara says, Vam Reish Lakish, but didn't Reish Lakish say, we just said above, Hagodros, Ein Lehen Chazaka, when it comes to livestock, there is no Chazaka. So he can't say, I bought it just because he has possession. He wouldn't win with that claim, because these kind of animals wander around and there's no Chazaka. And the Gemara answers, Shani, easy, it's different by goats. Goats are not the same as Godros. The Mesira Laroa, because goats are given over to a shepherd, they are supervised, therefore they're not just wandering around, and if you have possession, that actually does establish a Chazaka immediately. But the Gemara says it's not true. There's the morning and the afternoon that the goats would actually be unsupervised at that time, so they are wandering around at certain times. And the Gemara answers to that, Ben Hardoi, Taye Shchichi, and Nahardoi, the Taye are the Arab thieves. They were very common over there, and they would steal these goats, Umiyada liyada mishalmi, and so therefore the goats were given over from hand to hand, from the owner to the shepherd. They were never left unsupervised in Nahardoi, and so therefore since they were never unsupervised, they're not just wandering around, and you could in fact establish a chazaka immediately in that area. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Rabbi Yishmael Omer, Rabbi Yishmael says, Shlosha Chadashim V'chulu, that when we're talking about a Sada Beis Habal, which is a field that produces based on rainwater, so you don't need 3 full years, you just need 3 months of the first year, then a full middle year, and then 3 months of the last year. That's according to Rabbi Yishmael. And Rabbi Akiva says you actually only need 1 month of the first year and 1 month of the last year and 12 months in the middle. So the Machlokas, Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva, is whether you need to have 3 months of that first and last year, or whether 1 month of the first and last year is sufficient. And the Gemara says, Leimo, let us say, Nir Ika Beinayu. The difference between them is whether plowing is considered to be a chazaka. The Rabbi Yishmael Savar Nir Lo have a chazaka. Rabbi Yishmael holds that plowing is not a chazaka, so you need 3 months for the produce to grow. Rabbi Akiva Savar Nir have a chazaka, but Rabbi Akiva holds plowing is a chazaka, so you only need 1 month out of that first year and out of that third year. But the Gemara says, V'tizber, is that a logical explanation? Rabbi Akiva ma'ir yachodesh. If Rabbi Akiva said plowing is enough, what do you even need a whole month for? Even 1 day should be sufficient to plow. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Lamed Vav Amid Beis.